Imagine a king, weakened by leprosy, but with a mind as sharp as the blade of a sword. A king who, even surrounded by deserts and relentless enemies, knew how to turn the sea into his most unexpected ally. Today, we will discover how Baldwin, the leper king of Jerusalem, used the waters of the Mediterranean as a strategic weapon to protect his kingdom and resist the growing Muslim threat led by Saladin. Much is said about land battles such as Montgisard or the defense of Jerusalem, but what few know is that naval control was also crucial for the survival of the Latin kingdom of Jerusalem. Baldwin IV understood this better than anyone. He did not have a fleet of his own, but he knew how to negotiate, ally himself with maritime powers like Genoa and Venice, and transform ports like Tyre, Acre, and Beirut into strongholds of resistance and supply. In this video, we will explore each step of this silent and effective strategy. Stay until the end to discover how the sea became a liquid wall against the armies of Saladin. Baldwin's courage was not only on the battlefield, it also sailed with the waves. In the 12th century, the Latin kingdom of Jerusalem was a fragile Christian conquest embedded between powerful enemies. Created after the First Crusade, its territory depended not only on land military strength, but on constant support coming from Europe by sea. Trade, pilgrims, military reinforcements, and supplies arrived through the ports of the Eastern Mediterranean, such as Acre, Tyre, and Jaffa. Around it, the Muslim world was unifying under the leadership of Saladin, Sultan of Egypt and Syria. Faced with this scenario, coastal control became a matter of survival for Baldwin and his fragile kingdom. Despite being weakened by leprosy, he understood with remarkable clarity the geostrategic value of maritime routes. The Eastern Mediterranean, which bathed the coastal cities of the Kingdom of Jerusalem, was not only a supply route, but a lifeline for the Crusader states. The absence of his own fleet did not prevent the young king from astutely employing the naval resources of the Italian maritime republics, especially Venice, Pisa, and Genoa. Early in his reign, Baldwin understood that maintaining control over the ports was as vital as defending Jerusalem. The city of Tyre in particular became a key piece. Heavily fortified and with easy access to the sea, it was a bulwark against Saladin's offensives. When he began his coastal expansion, the leper king did not hesitate. He reinforced garrisons, secured pacts with Italian maritime commanders, and ensured supplies by sea. A striking example occurred during Saladin's campaign in 1177, the same year as the victory at Montgisard. Saladin had launched attacks against Gaza, Ascalon, and other coastal fortresses, hoping to cut off Christian supply routes. Baldwin, however, acted in advance. Through treaties with Genoese and Venetian merchants, he ensured the transport of reinforcements and provisions directly to the threatened ports. During those critical years, Baldwin's skill in negotiating with the Italians was essential. In exchange for commercial privileges in cities like Acre and Beirut, he obtained naval support that proved decisive. Venetian galleons even patrolled the waters off the coast of Palestine, preventing Saladin's forces from completely surrounding the coastal fortresses. The city of Acre, for example, went through periods of constant tension. Although it did not face a full siege under Baldwin, it remained stable thanks to the constant flow of supplies and troops guaranteed by these maritime alliances. The presence of Italian fleets discouraged any attempt at a prolonged blockade by Saladin. Another emblematic episode occurred in 1182, when Saladin launched an offensive toward the north, threatening Beirut and Tyre. Baldwin, already visibly weakened by the disease, personally organized a response force supported by Genoese vessels that had just docked in Tyre. By combining local troops, Hospitaller Knights, and foreign naval support, the king managed to contain the threat and preserve coastal control. The success of this defense came not only from military strength, but from precise logistics and skillful diplomacy. Baldwin understood that the survival of the kingdom required mobility and supply, and that was only possible through control of the sea. By ensuring unrestricted access to the ports and maintaining ties with maritime powers, he prevented Jerusalem from being fully besieged. Moreover, the sea served as a route of escape and aid. In critical moments when land routes were compromised, it was by sea that Crusader reinforcements from Europe still managed to arrive. In part, this was due to Baldwin's reputation. His courage in the face of leprosy and his firmness on the throne inspired respect among European leaders, encouraging continued naval support. These episodes show that even without his own ships, Baldwin IV made the sea into an invisible wall. With political astuteness and solid alliances, the leper king turned the waves of the Mediterranean into a silent but extremely effective weapon against Saladin's siege. Baldwin's maritime policy not only prevented Muslim advances, but also consolidated European influence over the Kingdom of Jerusalem. Each concession made to the Italians, whether docks, warehouses, or commercial quarters, was carefully calculated. The king did not see these republics as threats to sovereignty, but as indispensable partners in sustaining his rule. Over time, cities like Acre became true multicultural colonies. Venice had a significant base there, with churches, markets, and even its own jurisdiction over its citizens. These concessions, in exchange for naval support, became a model of strategic survival. Baldwin used the sea not only as a physical defense, but as a channel of economic and diplomatic integration with the West. While Saladin strengthened the Muslim world, unifying Egypt and Syria under his charismatic leadership, Baldwin responded with another form of unity, a fluid maritime coalition formed by merchants, knights, clerics, and soldiers from various parts of Europe. It was a delicate balancing act, and the sea was his board. One of the greatest triumphs of this strategy emerged during the final years of Baldwin's reign. In 1183, the city of Tyre came under the pressure of an imminent siege by Saladin's forces. By that time, Baldwin was nearly blind, unable to walk without support, and his authority was constantly challenged by noble factions within his own kingdom. Even so, he acted swiftly and precisely. He ordered that Tyre be urgently reinforced and entrusted its defense to the newly arrived Conrad of Montferrat, an Italian noble with direct ties to the maritime powers. The choice was no accident. Conrad arrived in Palestine on Genoese ships, bringing with him not only armed men, but promises of continued support from Italy. The defense of Tyre proved to be a landmark of resistance. When Saladin besieged the city, he found a fortress that was prepared, well supplied, and with free access to the sea. Muslim attempts to blockade the port failed, thanks to the agility of Genoese and Venetian vessels. Conrad led the resistance competently, but it was Baldwin's earlier strategy that made this resistance possible. Even in the face of his own physical decline, Baldwin could still influence the course of the war. By strengthening the coast and ensuring Christian navigation in the eastern Mediterranean, he extended the existence of the Kingdom of Jerusalem by at least a generation. His enemies could not complete the siege. The sea, with its open routes, made Jerusalem a stronghold connected to the West, a living bridge between the East and European Christendom. The greatest consequence of this vision was observed after Baldwin's death. When Jerusalem finally fell into Saladin's hands in 1187, the coastal cities, especially Tyre, remained firm, sustained by the same naval network he had woven over the years. This allowed the Third Crusade to arrive with renewed strength just 2 years later. Therefore, Baldwin's maritime legacy outlived his diseased body. Even unable to wield a sword, he commanded a resistance based on alliances, logistics, and geographic intelligence. The waters of the Mediterranean became his final wall, and on it he wrote a strategic chapter that few crusaders managed to imitate. Baldwin's story is in itself extraordinary. a king marked by leprosy, ruling with courage and clarity in times of crisis. But as we observe his use of the sea as an instrument of war and diplomacy, we recognize a genius often forgotten. He did not need ships of his own to dominate the waters. It was enough for him to see clearly that the Mediterranean was as crucial as any stone wall. By turning ports into fortresses and commercial allies into strategic partners, Baldwin prolonged the life of the Kingdom of Jerusalem. His legacy lies not only on the battlefields, but in the docks, the routes, the agreements, and the tides he knew how to use to his advantage. Even sick, even surrounded by enemies and ambitious nobles, he made the sea a weapon, and that perhaps was one of his greatest victories. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more amazing episodes from the life of the Leper King and the Crusades, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Also, leave your comment. Which aspect of Baldwin's strategy surprised you the most? See you in the next chapter.